Greetings, film freaks. We are the Podcorn Kernels. Join us as we discuss the hard and often indigestible truths that are at the center of the fluffy and delicious world of cinema. Season 2.
What's poppin', people? Welcome to the Podcorn Kernels podcast. My name is Adam, and joining me in your ear holes is Harry. Say hello, Harry.
Want out of that toxic relationship? Cannot find a way to quit that soul-crushing job? Or just want a break from your family? Here at Not Quite Euthanasia, we stage your death so you can get more beach time and less 9 till 5.
IMDb describes the synopsis as follows. When a simple jewellery heist goes horribly wrong, the surviving criminals begin to suspect that one of them is a police informant. Here is an original song to support the synopsis.
Mr. White ain't right, Mr. Blonde's playing wrong, Mr. Brown crashed in flight and Mr. Blue is gone. Mr. Pink's in the know, nice guy Eddie is dead, Mr. Orange calls Joe to get a bullet to the head. Are you gonna bark all day, or are you gonna bite?
Let's start with some facts about the film. The film's budget was so low that many of the actors were asked to simply bring their own clothing as wardrobe, most notably Chris Penn's track jacket. The signature black suits were provided for free by the designer, who had a deep love for the American crime film genre. Steve Buscemi wore his own black jeans instead of suit trousers, and Michael Madsen wore a jacket and trousers that came from two different suits.
I'm with Buscemi on that one. On my wedding day, I wore black jeans.
No one's got time for nylon trousers. They're not comfortable. They don't actually look that good.
Even if you're in good shape, trousers feel airy. There's too much looseness down there. But then you get the other end of the spectrum, where like modern weddings now, there's guys wearing suit trousers that are like cycling lycra. And you can see all the bumps and all of the lumps.
That's too much. They're the tight trousers that they wear without sock and loafer. And it's just like, what are you trying to be?
Boat shoes. It's much better to be comfortable. Imagine doing these scenes and this acting, feeling comfortable. It's one less thing that you're irritating yourself with.
And whenever I've worn a pair of suit trousers, I'm taken back to school days where you had to wear those horrible trousers as part of your school uniform. Mm-hmm. Black jeans, all day, every day.
Yeah.
The most shocking thing about that fact is Chris Penn owned that tracksuit jacket.
I can believe that because it was in the times of the 90s mobster films and stuff, wasn't it? It was the T-Sopranos, the tracksuits, the gold chains, the hairy chests.
It's never been a good look as far as I'm concerned.
What, purple and green tracksuits? No.
Yeah.
Never.
But I just love that they all sort of banded together. I feel like the whole cast was like, this is something special. So if we can help make Quentin realise his vision, we'll do it in any way we can.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they were doing some sort of orc and elf thing, it wouldn't have worked. No one's really got that in their cupboard.
You don't know.
Unless you're one of the Carradine brothers. But but someone's saying, you're just going to play a bit of a low-key mobster. Have you got any black suits? Been to any funerals lately?
Oh,
yeah.
Got a bit dark.
Yeah, I like that. I love that. I love that scrimping and scraping to get a movie made. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Harvey Keitel, though, came on as a producer, didn't he? And managed to increase the budget a bit.
Yeah.
Which is great, because he loved the script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Madsen's character, Mr. Blonde's real name is Vic Vega. This is the same surname as John Travolta's character, Vincent, from Pulp Fiction. Tarantino has revealed that Vic and Vince are brothers. He also intended to do a prequel to both films called Double V Vega, which would star the Vega brothers, but Madsen and Travolta eventually got too old to reprise their roles, and Tarantino has since abandoned it. I'd love to have seen that film.
Yeah, it's kind of cool that they exist in the same universe, though, even without a film to bring them together, to knit them together. They got the same lean as well. Do you notice that? In Pulp Fiction, there's a scene you can put together with Reservoir Dogs where they're both white shirt, black tie, black jacket, and they're both leaning against the wall, which is kind of cool.
I love that there is this sort of unspoken Tarantino verse where a lot of his characters and a lot of brands like show their face within all of his films.
Slim Jims? No, what?
Red Apple's cigarettes. Is it Red Apple's?
Yeah, Red Apple cigarettes, but also they mention the cafe which Uma Thurman goes to in Pulp Fiction in Reservoir
Slim
Dogs.
Jims, I think you're right. Yeah, and you got the Vega brothers. Within Reservoir Dogs, they mention Alabama, who was the character from True Romance, which Tarantino wrote as well. I'll tell you what, if you're a fan of Tarantino or a fan of Reservoir Dogs, you should read the fact section on IMDb. There's hundreds of facts. I could only include 3 on this podcast episode, but there's loads of fascinating things. Would you have liked to have seen Double V Vega?
Probably not.
Really?
Probably not. I think it didn't happen for a reason, and the right reason. If he would have had to go and cast 2 young people to portray them both, it would have killed the illusion.
Well,
it's a lovely Easter egg to watch either film and know that there's a chance that them two are related.
I mean, it was his initial plan to do the film soon after this and Pulp Fiction, but for whatever reason, he took on other projects. You're right. There's no way I'd like his 10th and final film to be Double V Vega. It would ruin it.
No. Stephen King did similar world building. So his town of Castle Rock is like the setting for many stories, like the body and it's short. They even mention this prison of Shawshank, I believe, in the body.
Oh wow!
So he does it as well.
Yeah, I think they're
both my boys.
Yeah,
King for the literary world, and Tino for the screen.
They're both top dogs, aren't they?
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs is included among the 1001 movies you must see before you die, edited by Steven Schneider. Schneider!
Of course it is.
I would be surprised if all of his films aren't in that, bar Death Proof.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of them deserve a Schneider shout.
I think so, definitely.
They're all so different. They are all so quintessentially Quentin Tarantino that I think from a film loving perspective, from an entertainment point of view, they all deserve a mention in that.
See, sometimes I see dualities of his films. So I look at Hateful Eight in the same light as I look at Reservoir Dogs, basically a single setting, with the characters being every essence of the film I'm watching. Then you get Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Inglourious Bastards, which they both play out alternate histories in real life events. So I pair them two. I pair Hateful and Reservoir together. The others are more separate in their own way. Yeah,
I guess you could do the same with Death Proof and Kill Bill. There's a lot of themes of revenge in those two as well. I think you're right.
They're more fantastical, aren't they?
You compare Tarantino's filmology with other ones, certainly. But yeah, I just love that. Just love everything about him, to be honest. And the fact that he's included in that Schneider list doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, well, it was revolutionary, this film. It was.
Is that one you like?
Even if it took a load of influences, it was revolutionary.
Yeah, it was. Go on to your likes.
Why? Why you did?
It's the format, isn't it?
Okay, first like. Let me tell you what Like a Virgin's about. What an opening line. Talking about Madonna's Like a Virgin. What an opening scene. I've always felt it. The prologue is just an enigmatic reveal of the characters we're about to walk this path with. They talk music. They talk about tipping. Joe's address book, an unlikely antagonist.
Yeah.
It's a film lover's wet dream. It's natural and intriguing. And I always go on about the opening scene in Alien, that ensemble performance.
Yeah.
It's so naturalistic. This is no different, but the dialogue's so promising. It's like, oh, you got my attention.
Immediately.
You had my curiosity.
Yeah.
Now you have my attention.
It's exactly that.
And that's what the opening is for me. So it's what, 5-6 minutes of screen?
Yeah.
And it's sharp, it's fast. You've got the great little cuts to see people's reactions to what you're hearing off to the side. It's really captivating. Hooked me in.
Yeah, you're like instantly initiated into the group.
Totally.
Like the conversations go in the hustle and bustle of a busy caf, and you're within the group immediately. And you're like invested. You're like, I'm part of the team. What are we talking about, guys? Yeah, I'll have a coffee. Yeah, I'll have a breakfast. Yeah, I'll tip. I'm not an asshole.
I wanted it. You never realise as well when you start that scene who's going to be the big players.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the pitcher? Who's going to be the batter?
Yeah.
You didn't realise that Mr. Blue's going to be on the bench for most of the film after that. Old bastard.
Yeah.
The dialogue's got to be in it.
Dialogue.
It just feels real, full of anecdotes, one-liners, tension. You hear it in True Romance, but you felt it in Reservoir Dogs. The texture is unreal.
Yeah,
it's so real. I love the dialogue, and it has always been one of his strongest points as a filmmaker.
Yeah,
it does stand miles above the rest in terms of dialogue. Almost like an exceptional stage play has been given the Hollywood treatment, and that's Tarantino for me.
Yeah, I mean, some of the monologues in these films, even like smaller line deliveries, they're so iconic. You think of the opening scene in Inglourious Bastards. You think of the anecdote that Tim Roth learns within this film.
Yeah, commode story.
Yeah,
the commode story.
I mean, just seeing a first-time director have the balls to do that, to have the balls to the first thing you see and hear on screen is himself, to have the confidence to do that, to give these great dialogues in the first film. A lot of first-time directors are a little cagey when they first start off. It can be quite generic. Dialogue sort of grows as they make films, but certainly with Tarantino, first fast out the gates, dialogue, boom, straight there.
He doesn't make his life easy for himself either, because it's like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. He's happy to do this world of chopping and cutting up the timelines, which always he smashes it. I don't know how he manages it.
That's what I mean. That's ballsy for your first two films to be fucking around with time like that.
Yeah,
Nolan's obsessed with time, and I mean, Memento, he did it early doors, but in terms of playing with a time frame and telling of a story in a linear sense, Tarantino's been doing that very early on in his career, jumping back and forth and sort of just accepting that the audience are going to have to knuckle down and strap themselves in for the ride.
I can't remember what program I was watching once, but a character said that they stitched Pulp Fiction into chronological order, and they went, "Oh wow, what was it like?" And they went, "It's garbage."
Really?
Well, stitching it in order, it worked because it was out of order.
Yeah,
out of order. Third, like Steelers wheel stuck in the middle of view. I mean, forever became associated with ear violence.
Yeah.
Imagine making a hit song and then a director makes a film and anyone and everyone's reference upon hearing it henceforth is to mention of cutting off an ear.
And the irony of that earworm becomes synonymous with a scene where an ear's being chopped off. Wherever I hear that, first time I saw this film, every single time I've ever heard that song,
no one knows anything different now.
Yeah,
I feel kind of sorry for that band, but I love the power of film now.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear Goodbye Horses now, all you imagine is tucking your dick in.
Yes.
And I love that. I think that's insane at a film because it gives you visual stimulus alongside a piece of music. It just makes you, it cracks me up. It cracks me up that song can never be played in any other regard other than, oh, hello, cutting off your ear.
Yeah, but imagine that if you're an artist, there's always that possibility that you only have to do one song that a director uses for an iconic cult classic, and then it's known, and the royalties they get every time that's played on the radio because of the popularity of a film is incredible. I mean, I'll tailgate on that because the soundtrack it's right up there with one of my best things about this film as well.
Some kind of feeling.
Yeah, I feel like the soundtrack and dialogue of every Tarantino film would be alike for me, but the music in this one, it just puts me in a great fucking mood. From the opening use of Little Green Bag by the George Baker selection to the use of Steelers wheels stuck in the middle of you during that infamous ear-cutting torture scene that you speak of. Every single song slaps, and just revisiting this 90s classic perks me right up. Now, Uncle Quentin has exquisite taste, and every film feels like a homage to the stuff he unashamedly loves.
Steve Wright, 70s DJ.
Yeah.
That's what's on the radio a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, and the music he uses, the references, they're just from a film lover, music lover that's like, this is what I like, and this is what I'm going to show you.
Do you know Madonna sent him one of her signed albums, not Immaculate, the other one, and she put, "Dear Quentin, the song's not about dick, it's about love."
Yeah.
Love, Madonna.
That's so cool.
Oh, I'd go looking for that. If I was ever a guest around his house, I've got to find that.
His gaff must be a treasure trove of stuff like that. Memorabilia of movies, like things from Madonna, things from other actors, other musicians that are just owe him a lot from using him using their stuff in these worlds that he creates.
Well, hopefully he hasn't got the real life gimp tied up in his basement.
No, that would be a tragedy. I wouldn't mind being his gimp. Shall I go on to my likes?
Yeah. No, hell no.
No?
Yeah, the genius of having a character, Mr. Orange, bleed out for the whole runtime is such a shaved knuckle or ace in the hole. What a brilliant way to build tension and horror.
Yeah.
And I never expected it first time I saw it. I didn't expect Madsen's character, Mr. Blonde, to get blown away whilst about to set fire to Nash, the police officer.
Yeah.
I thought that was exceptional. Did you know about Lawrence Tierney in real life?
No.
Fucking hell. I just got to hit this in quickly. But between 1944 and 51, Tierney was arrested over 12 times in Los Angeles for brawling frequently for drunkenness, which included ripping a public telephone off a wall in a bar, hitting a waiter in the face with a sugar bowl for refusing to serve him any more drinks, and attempting to choke out a taxi driver.
He's done it.
He's a real criminal.
That's like the bingo calling card of doing all the criminal activities you can think of. That's amazing. He looks the type as well, doesn't he?
He looks like he's walked out of Lock, Stock, but with an American accent.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A bald gorilla.
Last like, I just want to get them in because I know there's a lot we have. But I said it before, I will say it again. Split diopters, also known as split field, to create deep focus that puts objects, near and far into focus. In this one, used brilliantly to show the tortured Nash in the foreground looking upon the dying Roth. Two sides of the same coin. Love it. Used perfectly. But I have many likes, but I'll let you get in there now, Dad.
Yeah, I could speak in a room on my own about my love for this film and all Tarantino films for ages. Oh, I do.
In the bathroom.
One of my favourite pastimes. I think I had to really dig deep to just come up with just 3 likes. Like you, I could go for days. But the biggest one is that it's, for me, the greatest directorial debut of all time. And I'm aware that is a bold statement. But in terms of a first-time director accomplishing their singular vision on such a small budget, I don't think it has ever been topped. No. Reservoir Dogs showed the world what an incredible writer and director Quentin Tarantino is, and the look and feel of this film not only set new parameters for the heist genre, I believe it changed cinema forever. Everything about this one works for me, from the razor-sharp dialogue to the likability of a group of anti-heroes, to the non-linear time frame and the twist hiding in plain sight. Reservoir Dogs showcases how a great storyteller doesn't need lots of money to tell a good story. Now, Uncle Quentin's debut is fantastic from the opening scene of dialogue right up until that iconic final scene. It makes every single minute count in a film that is tight, terrific, and quintessentially Quentin. Now, I thought long and hard of a debut that tops this, and I struggle.
No, you've got directors' first successful films, but their debuts aren't always huge. Like before Spielberg did Jaws, he did Duel.
Yeah.
Which is not an exceptional debut. This is.
It's
in my opinion.
Oftentimes a filmmaker makes a film that shows promise. There's nuggets of value within their film, and then producers or companies are like, "Oh, I like what they've done with this. Well, let's see what they do with a bigger budget."
Wasn't Shawshank Frank Darabont's first ever film?
Yeah, but when that first came out, it wasn't well received.
It weren't, but
now
he's definitely got more funding than Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah,
for the scenes itself.
Yeah.
But if I'm correct in thinking that is his debut, that's shoulder to shoulder. That's huge.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That is a huge film for it to be that. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, for me, if this is the first thing you churn out, I mean, he did some successful writing before this. He wrote Natural Born Killers and True Romance, so I guess that would give him a level of confidence.
Which, strangely, they didn't come out until after he did this.
Yeah.
Did they? 93. So this came out, 92?
92, yeah.
This came out in 92, but he must have sold the story of True Romance because that was 93. So yeah.
Yeah. But just having that confidence to go for, like, I'm writing now. Look, I've got this money for writing. People are noticing me. I'm going to use that to make my film and wallop. Like, this is the film he made. It's a madness to me. I also love that it's just slick, stylish cinema that withstands the test of time. Reservoir Dogs is a classic crime caper that manages to somehow still feel fresh over 30 years after its release. This is down to fast, free-flowing filmmaking that throws its audience into the thick of the action and doesn't once wait for you to catch your breath. Fast, fun and fully engrossing, I personally think it is the greatest heist flick film of all time, which is incredible when you don't actually see any of the crime itself. Now, I know you probably consider Heat the superior heist film, but for me, for the fact
that's action film, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's more action.
Yeah, I'd say that they were both in that sort of heist genre of film.
This is crime thriller, isn't it? Really,
but in Heat, you see a lot of heist, you see a lot of stealing, you see a lot of failed robberies. This is all what you don't see. This is the aftermath. You have to use your imagination to fill in the gaps and stuff. And I just think that's really, really smart.
That's one of them brilliant things, though, where you're limited by budget. It ends up becoming art. The first-person view in Jaws and stuff. I love that.
Yeah.
They're stories that make me adore cinema and remind me why I like it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, certainly when you look back on an established filmmaker's body of work and you see what the foundations they built on, it is really, it sort of warms the cockles, doesn't it?
Yep.
Is there anything you disliked about Reservoir Dogs?
It's not a deal breaker because he acted it well, but Tino as Mr. Brown, don't put yourself in your own films, but you don't really know the reasons why. He might have aspired to be an actor as well. Maybe he thought this might be my only chance to do a bit of both. But he put himself in Pulp Fiction.
Django.
Very small in Django, not a proper role, was it?
But he does a god-awful Australian accent.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I've never appreciated it in any director putting themselves in their own films.
Yeah.
I think it distracts. Shyamalan does it a lot. Peter Jackson put himself as an extra in Lord of the Rings, but that's fine. He didn't have any talking parts.
Yeah. For me, it doesn't work. It's my top dislike as well, is acting Tarantino. He's just not a good actor. He's a superb director,
I think he was totally fine in the breakfast scene. I think him telling the anecdote about Madonna, I thought was fine. I don't like disregard him as an actor, but when you know it's the director and it's his writing, it's his story, and he's put himself in it, it's almost like what Gervais does now.
Yeah.
It's almost too self-obsessed.
Yeah, I mean, for me, you look at that role, like you say, he doesn't do anything bad with it. I'm not sitting there cringing when he's doing it. Like, he's the first thing you hear and the first thing you see in the film, and he does a good job.
He wanted to play Mr. Pink. He even said to Steve Buscemi, "I really want to play this role, so if you're going to take it from me, your audition better be good."
Yeah,
and it was good.
Well, yeah,
of course it was.
I'd go as far as say this is probably Steve Buscemi's best performance in a film. I know.
Yeah.
I thought he was superb as Nucky in
Thompson,
Boardwalk Empire, but in terms of film, this is his best performance.
Yeah, he had a great character actor in Con Air as Garland Green.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot.
But
about
that's
that. Great
a good support role. But
yeah.
No, I'd agree with you. It probably is his best.
Yeah, I mean that is my biggest dislike is Tarantino in the film. But when you think of the budget restraints, maybe it's a simple case of, well, if I act this, I don't have to pay anyone to do it.
I think he just loved the dialogue.
Yeah,
I think the character he wrote, he liked it. You got to remember, if you're writing the dialogue of a character, you're creating that character. You're putting all the clay together. You're creating the physical form. It's your creation. It's like he's a dad to characters.
Yeah, he's the dad of dialogue.
And he trusted himself to do it more.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I almost wish I could have gone back and said, if you never would have put yourself in any of your own films, you'd be even more highly regarded by the general populace.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
It's just, it's more, having mystique is more captivating when you know someone's behind the lens and they created a movie. But seeing them in their own film, it always dilutes it a little for me.
Yeah. I mean, there's that new TV series that everyone's talking about, that Baby Reindeer, which takes huge courage and strength from the guy telling the story.
Gad.
But it kind of limits himself now. He'll always be known as that guy. Everyone knows that's who it happened to, and it's his own story. And I feel like he was superb in that. But like Tarantino, I think, well, if you're writing and directing it, like, just stay behind the camera and let the credits come for what you've done in telling the story.
Only difference is, though, Gad is biographical, so he's playing out a story that actually happened to him. I think it's a one-off. I think if Gad never does anything ever again, and he never does anything to support Baby Reindeer or anything else, it would be an exceptional standalone mini-series.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think he's kind of limiting himself now by doing that.
Well, because we know everything about him.
Exactly.
We know he's bisexual. We know he's he's into trans and stuff, and he's unsure about his sexuality. We know he got raped. We know everything about the actor. So you see him in anything now, you'll never be able to look past it.
It's exactly that. It's exactly that. And credit where credit's due. At least Quentin isn't put himself front and center for films after this. Yeah. Like, I mean, I would still fucking watch it. I would watch that man do anything.
He acted in Dust Till Dawn, though, so that's what I mean. There may have been a part of him that loved acting as well as directing.
I think if you love film as much as he does, I think he would have taken anything he could have got. I think if he got acting roles after From Dusk Till Dawn, I think he would have pursued that. I think if this film was a flop and he could never direct, he would have just been a writer. I think he would have just worked in a cinema or done anything within film because of his passion of it so strong.
Yeah, I agree.
Any more dislikes?
I'm not saying I have trypophobia, but that ear hole is so visceral.
Trypophobia?
It's like a fear of holes, little holes, like a massed together. So when his ear gets cut off, it's got all these little holes. I just can't not look at it. Every time that Nash is on screen going, I'm looking at his ear and I'm just thinking, fucking hell. And when he pours petrol on him and it's all pouring down the side of his head.
Oh, it's a lot in it.
Oh.
So what's that phobia called?
Trypophobia.
Trypophobia. If you've got trypophobia, are you going to be scared of that cheese with bare holes in?
Dear Damon, potentially, if it's all massed together. If you can see sunlight through it, you wouldn't.
Okay.
Trypophobia is like imagine you had loads of holes in an orange, loads of holes, almost like it's an animal. There's organics ain't got about it.
Imagine a pomegranate unseeded.
That's a bingo. Pretty much, yeah.
That's a fear.
There's a lot of sea life that's got trypophobia traits.
Ooh.
Yeah. But the ear, I just felt awful for Nash. It's just horrific.
Yeah. Considering
being beaten up, having his ear cut, he's like got a kid and everything, and they're pouring petrol on him and stuff, and he still gets fucking blown away.
Yeah, it's tragic, isn't it? And the look and feel of that, it's just, you're right, it's so raw. And for a film in the 90s where it's such a small budget, for it to look that like, I can't help but grimace when I see it. And like you say, those holes, I don't have a fear of holes. But seeing that, and with the petrol going over his face and how much that must have burnt.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever had a scratch or something and like spray deodorant on it, or a cut on your hand and put hand sanitizer on? That sting is fucking brutal.
Yeah, it's just every time I watch it, I just like I'm in shock, and I can't stop looking at that ear. It's just horrific.
Yeah. No, it is not pleasant.
Last is like sitting in sticky blood for all them scenes. It must have been hell.
Oh. Do you think it got a scent as well?
I don't know. They said that it kept drying, so they literally had to peel Tim Roth off the floor like every day, like to just sit.
How was work today, honey? It's just sticky blood floor.
And it wouldn't have been like, they wouldn't have put this, it was a low budget film. They wouldn't have done loads of weekly tests on the best stuff we can use so it doesn't affect his skin, so it doesn't stick to him, so he doesn't have to have 3 showers a day. It would have been the cheapest shit on earth.
And health and safety is a huge thing now, and it wasn't back then. So now they'd be like, it's probably not great for Tim to sit in that sticky shit for 8 hours a day. Like... Now he wouldn't have to do it. They would CGI in, or the fake blood would be more pleasant to be bathing in. But back then, it must be horrible.
It makes me feel kind of weak watching him slowly bleed out throughout the film. I actually feel a bit weak. You know when you haven't had any sugar?
Yeah.
And you feel like, oh my God, I feel lightheaded. Watching him bleed out is like, it's almost exhausting.
I mean...
Which is clever.
The makeup team deserve huge props as well, because he actually declines in like facial colour when he's lying there bleeding out in the sticky icky. You can actually see him get whiter and whiter. I
used to think the blood looked bad, but actually watching it again recently, I was like, oh, no, it stands up. It's not awful, actually.
Well,
it's not awful.
I mean, I compare it to the films like Dirty Harry, which I saw recently.
Oh, that blood looks like orange paint.
Yeah, I mean, it looks oddly delicious. I kind of want to sup it.
Oh,
but definitely not the blood in Reservoir Dogs. No thanks.
Yeah.
So that's you with your dislikes done.
Yeah, man. Very quite diet dislikes.
Yeah, I mean, my dislikes are also very diet, obviously, but I'll just go into the film bro reputation. Now, this isn't a negative about the film, but as we are talking about Tarantino on a platform where people listen to our thoughts and feels, I'd like to say that there seems to be an increasing number of people from the film-loving community that are calling out fans of QT. And I find this really odd. The man has been writing and directing for over 3 decades, and each one of his movies is a result of a cinephile putting his own unique take on things and themes that have greatly inspired him throughout his own film-loving journey. I get it if you don't like his violence. I understand if you're not a fan of the characteristics of some of his characters. I can jive with you if you don't vibe with the bad language, but to actively gun down those that enjoy the craft of a filmmaker that has time and time again proven his value as a director, I really don't understand it. Now, you're not as active on social media as I am.
There's a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I feels you. Every day's a fucking struggle on there, let me tell you. But the amount of people I see gunning for Tarantino, and it's like, I don't believe you're gunning for him because you don't like what he's doing.
Jealous.
I think you're gunning for him because you just think because his films are violent, because his language is bad, all of these things, you think that in this society we live in, that makes him a bad person. I can't believe that someone watches all 9 of his films and not be entertained by them once.
But why do people go to cinema to watch horror films? Because they like to be scared. This is just another genre, and the genre is violent crime drama, or dark comedy. Like, why is that off the table?
I don't know.
Like, why do I have to watch La La Land
and
accept it to be exceptional when say I never had love in my life? I was treated terribly by partners and stuff, and I can't watch a love story. Doesn't mean I'm going to go pan Giselle. Or just go nuts at him.
Exactly,
because, your films are insensitive to people that didn't ever have love and stuff. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
It's maddening, isn't it? But the the more I age and the more I see on social media, the people that target directors like Tarantino, it's just like, why? I need to know specifically why, because you're outraged at the use of language of film 30 years ago. Like, I don't really understand. You don't seem to want to let it go. And this whole like male bigot perspective, if you like Tarantino. My partner watches Tarantino and she loves it. I mean, Kill Bill's one of the strongest female leads I think you'll ever see in any film.
Jackie Brown.
Yeah, Jackie Brown as well. Death Proof, it's got a nucleus of women that just unashamedly kick ass.
Yeah.
So I really
People don't like that though. They want to look past the evidence that falters their argument. They want to look straight past it and try to say that there's a correlation between violent films and real life violence.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
That would never happen, because then you would have to determine that someone's brain and DNA can be altered by watching a film.
Yeah.
Which is absolute nonsense.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. You don't watch Seven and then be like, I'm going to go and kill 7 people in a very specific
you don't
way.
all of a sudden become a psychopath through watching a film.
Yeah.
That shit was already there.
Yeah, exactly.
It always has been a nonsense argument.
Yeah.
It always has.
And as I say, the older I get, the more it does roll me up. It's like if you're not going to do a film because it insults some people, you're never going to make a film ever again. Someone, especially this day and age, someone will always find outrage for something.
Well, that's what they want. They want the drama. But I would also love anyone that really sits and dislikes Tarantino. I'd love to see what they love, because I reckon I could find holes in it. You can find holes in everyone and in everything.
Well, I saw someone on Instagram within the last year turn around and very publicly and openly say that they won't watch a film if it's got a single swear word in it.
So what are they limited to?
Pixar and Disney, I guess. Like, and I thought,
I would kill myself.
How close-minded do you have to be? Fine, if you're not a fan of swear words and if you wince at gore and violence, okay, it's not your cup of tea. But to outright come out and say, I will not watch a film that's got a swear word.
So they've not seen one Oscar-winning film. They've seen some anime, they've seen some Pixar, but you can have a film that has in one scene 1 death and 1 swear word.
Yeah.
But for the other 2 hours of film, none of that occurred.
It's that self-imposed limitation. It's like, all right, you might get really affected by horror films, so you don't watch horror. Fine. You might not be able to watch abuse films because you've suffered abuse. You might not be able to watch films that focus on cancer because you've lost a loved one to cancer.
Don't pigeonhole yourself.
But that's what I mean, to go that broad and go, I'm not going to watch a film with a single swear word in. You're a fucking wanker.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a really intelligent 6-year-old and you're just sticking to the regulations and laws.
Well, then, yeah, you're going to go on to bigger and better things.
Fuck them. Some people they need to have an identity. So their identity is, my unique thing about me is I don't watch films with swearing in. And I don't like Quentin Tarantino because of the violence. What the real life violence that occurs outside your door. When people get stabbed, teenagers get stabbed in London. And people are being gassed in Germany in 1945. That didn't happen, did it? Because you're a denier.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. We could do a whole episode just bashing those sort of people, couldn't we?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah. Final dislike is Keitel doesn't like that cigarette.
What do I mean?
I noticed this the first time I watched it, and it has bothered me the 20-odd times I have seen it ever since. Early into the film, Keitel and Buscemi, Mr. White and Mr. Pink, share a smoke. White lights Pink's ciggy, but not his own, and then proceeds to toke at a non-lit smoke. Later on, he does light one and smokes it, and I've always found that odd.
I never noticed it.
You never noticed it. First scene, you see Mr. White and Mr. Pink in the warehouse together, and he does that clicky thing for the lighter. He lights Mr. Pink, Steve Buscemi's cigarette. Steve Buscemi smokes it. He puts the lighter just a little bit away from the cigarette, and he doesn't actually toke it. And I was like, okay, he's a non-smoker and doesn't want to smoke. I respect that, fine. But then later on, he's smoking, and I'm like, why not? Why do you not do it for that one?
Could it be that his chain of thoughts interrupted the process? That he's thinking so much that he hasn't lit it? Maybe.
I'll show it to you once we finished here, but he's the flames, it's a conscious decision. Like, you can see him not wanting, and then he goes as if to smoke it, and it feels like he's done the take. Tarantino's liked the take, and he's like, right, we're going to have to keep that. But later on, smoke the fucking cigarette. Your character smokes the fucking cigarette, so smoke the cigarette.
Oh, that's a shame. I didn't realise.
Yeah, and once you see it, it's one of those things you can't unsee. I've got some questions.
Yeah.
What are your top 3 Tarantino films?
This changes sometimes.
Yeah.
Only because if you keep bringing out new films, it's going to change.
Of course.
I'd say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Ooh.
Pulp Fiction, and Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
I think. I love Inglourious Bastards, but to sit and say which one would I watch sooner, it would be Hateful Eight or Once Upon a Time. Pulp Fiction historically for the legacy films, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I just adore it. I adore the setting, that Hollywood, that 70s, 60s Hollywood, the alternate history with Sharon Tate. Hateful Eight, I only saw in the last couple of years. I end up really liking it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a Western, but it's also Reservoir Dogs in a sense of like there's a twist, there's a mystery going on. I just really enjoyed it. And I laughed a lot. Walter Goggins, Samuel Jackson. Yeah, Pulp Fiction, Hateful Eight, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, my top two are nailed in as far as I'm concerned. It's Inglourious Bastards and then Pulp Fiction. And then in that third spot, I honestly think it depends on what one I've seen most recently.
Yeah.
So in there now today is Reservoir Dogs because I watched it last night.
Yeah.
But equally, Hateful Eight's been there. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's been in there. Django's been in there. Like, I think they're all great.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think one of these films is under a 7.5, but I love the man. So
Yeah. Well, I've never seen Death Proof.
yeah,
I haven't done his filmography.
almost though.
Almost.
Which actor would you like to see in a Tarantino film that has never or hasn't yet featured in one?
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
When I look at his work in like Magnolia, Born on the 4th of July and stuff, he can do other stuff. He's an exceptional action star.
Yeah.
But that guy's got other chops that
Yeah.
people need to praise.
I was gutted because he was going to be in Tarantino's final film, The Critic, but it's been scrapped. So he's no longer attached to it now. But yeah, Tom Cruise is up there, and peak Jack Nicholson, 90s Jack Nicholson, early 90s Jack Nicholson. I think him and Tarantino should have worked together.
Yeah.
I think Tarantino would write a fantastic Nicholson character.
I wonder if Tarantino likes The Departed.
I don't know. I'd say he's probably against it because he probably loves the Asian original, Infernal Affairs.
Yeah.
Internal Affairs.
I think it is Infernal.
Yeah. One of the two.
As in Inferno.
Yeah.
It might be Infernal Affairs.
It could be internal because it is a rat internally fucking up. Reservoir Dogs has one of the all-time greatest twists, with a character the audience assumes dead shooting down a maniac before revealing to its audience that he is a cop. In your opinion, what are your top 3 twists in cinema?
When you talk twists, it's hard not to talk about Shyamalan, because regardless of whether you or one of the people in the cinema that said, "Oh, I knew the twist straight away," most people didn't, but I really enjoyed the twist in The Sixth Sense and in Unbreakable. In Unbreakable, the twist being Samuel Jackson is the villain,
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
You know, he's even decked in purple throughout. There's something that he talks about the characteristics of superheroes and villains, and the whole time he's the villain. So I like Shyamalan for some of his early twists. The Usual Suspects is good.
Oh, yeah.
Kaiser Soze. And the Incendies was probably my favourite.
Oh, I wish I'd put that down. Yeah, that's a great
which you
shout.
showed me, and ever since I enjoyed it, because Incendies it's not a Hollywood movie. It's a stone cold art film or indie film.
Yeah, yeah.
And it really hits that twist is exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. If you're going to talk twists, M. Night deserves a shout out. He's made a career on twists.
Yeah.
So much so that now, as he's made more and more films, they've diluted in quality because you're waiting for it, and the twists are getting more and more ridiculous because he feels he has to try and crowbar them into the story, and then the more he does, they're like,
His first 3 movies were his best, or his first 4.
Sixth
Sense, The Village, Signs, and Unbreakable.
Yeah, I mean, that's a decent filmography, isn't it?
Yeah, for me they were all 6.57.
Yeah.
I loved them all. Signs I adored.
I mean, I love me a twist in a film, especially when I don't see it coming. So my top 3 twists is Old Boy, Fight Club, and Saw. Saw a very similar one where you think there's a character in the middle of the room that's dead, and he just when that fucker stood up in Saw, man, I watched it in sixth form, I nearly shat my pants.
I think it took influence from Reservoir.
It has to.
Yeah.
Surely. Must have.
Yeah.
And Old Boy, what a horrible twist that is.
Did he rape his daughter?
Well, he's dicking his daughter. Because of childhood beef,
Jesus.
Basically, yes. That's nasty. And Fight Club, first time I saw...
Because of childhood Korean beef.
Yeah. And Fight Club, I never saw coming that
he
didn't
is
exist. When I first saw that, I mean, I saw it when I was quite young, but when I saw it, I was like, what the
Well, it's how Ed Norton wants to see himself.
Yeah.
A cool, really fit, athletic, charming dude.
Yeah. What would you rate Reservoir Dogs out of 10?
8.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a 10 for a very long time, but the more and more I started to realise I didn't really like it when directors put themselves in their films.
Yeah, for me, it's a 9 out of 10. It's not quite a 10. I mean, some of the characters shouting over each other in a lot of the film gets a bit grating. Some of the budget restrictions lessens it. Like if you notice when they're running on the pavement, they run past the same building about 8 times because they only got a limited of space where they were allowed to film. So you see them running past the same building. It's no one's fault.
Buscemi had to wait for a green light.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the money to turn off the lights.
Yeah. I
mean,
mean,
that scene where he drags the woman out of the car and jumps in the car, if they time it wrong, he has to stop at a red light.
I mean, we've mentioned it earlier, I love facts like that because it shows where a great director had to start like plying his trade and hearing that. I love it. Yeah. So for me, it's a 9 out of 10. I still love it. That gives Reservoir Dogs a total score of 17.5 out of 20. If you like your debuts to be sharp, stylish and super slick, or if you have ever wanted to see a pack of dogs get rabid with a rat that is doubling down on disarming devious diamond dealings, then Reservoir Dogs could be a film for you. Reservoir Dogs is available to stream on Amazon Prime. Consider watching this one if you enjoyed Pulp Fiction, Heat and The Hateful Eight. This is a first on the Podcorn Kernels podcast. I'm jumping back on to let you, the lovely listener, know that I royally fucked up. He doesn't, in fact, light the cigarette. Listen back to the earlier part of the episode. I state that he doesn't light a cigarette and it's just poor acting or poor decision making. It's clearly a character decision that he wants to talk. And good old Harold, when showing back, pointed out that Harvey Keitel does, in fact, look down at his cigarette, suggest with a little flutter of the eyes, fuck that, I don't want to smoke, and then continues to speak to Mr. Pink.
It's very quick. Like you were saying, it's a micro-expression and you missed that little bit.
What the listener doesn't know, that I'm going to go home now and metaphorically kick the living shit out of myself because I pride myself on my deep love and knowledge of Tarantino films. And I've publicly gone on record and said, this didn't happen. You showed me. Well, no, it does.
But I had it though. I was telling you about The Exorcist. I went into my adult life thinking it's the astronaut that she says in the living room. She says it to him. She says, you're going to die up there. And then about 2 or 3 scenes later, they say, oh, but Dennings is dead. Yeah, it fell from the window in your daughter's bedroom. And I always thought it was the astronaut that died. I'm such an idiot because she says you're going to die up there, but she meant the astronaut's going to die in space. I took that into my adult life. I should be ashamed. I should hurt myself.
And I love you for trying to comfort me with those warming words. But I watched the film yesterday.
Okay.
And I still thought, no, that's been a dislike of mine for 20 years. Wrong.
Yeah, but you like smoking. You probably wanted him to smoke, and so you looked at it under that gaze. You didn't see the little micro.
It's like realising things in slow motion. Like, imagine like your child's pushchairs going towards traffic, and you can imagine like it's slowing down, trying to reach to get there before it's... When that moment you showed, no, I think it was a conscious decision, and I saw it. It's like time itself froze.
Peter!
And I was like, oh, I gone fucked up.
We did the right thing. We've come back. We've said what we've done our due diligence.
Yeah, due diligence.
Yeah.
Shall we play a game?
Give it a name, give it a name, give it a name now. We birth a plot and then make a trailer. What the plot? Action!
Hit me.
I would like to see a male version of Turning Red, where instead of the lead character negotiating the trials and tribulations of womanhood, we see a young lad trying to come to terms with the male experience of puberty.
You're trying to get me cancelled.
No.
You're trying to fuck me.
I'm trying to show that we are deep-thinking peoples. I have more.
Don't ever fuck me. Don't you ever try to fuck me.
I'd like this story to be animated, family-friendly, and would like it to be focused on the confusing journey a boy has to navigate whilst turning from a boy into a man. Sexual urges and desires can be left at the door in this one if you want. But I wish to see the portrayal of adapting to the awkward voice breaking, the hair where there wasn't hair before, and the crossing of the boys don't cry bridge that all us men have to cross at some point or another.
And boners during breakfast.
Yep, they're the worst types of boners.
Because like in the film, the panda represents the period or menstruation. Then erections in this could be like he's got an inanimate object that comes alive and it gets like a balloon. It keeps getting bigger in the kitchen. He's scared it's going to blow up. And yeah, the balloon could be his getting erections at the worst point in his life. But we don't obviously see any of that stuff. Otherwise, there'd be some pedos at the door.
That's a different film.
Very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could have things like a balloon keep expanding, and then if it blows, like, I don't want to say wet dream. It's hard for me not to take it there because I don't know the equivalent to menstruation in men.
Well, I've got a little bit more to say that might help.
Go for it.
Probably not, though. I wish for the male experience to be explored in a way that teaches young boys that it is also tricky to go from a boy to a man as well. I would also like to see a family film exploring the fact that boys get sad too, and we aren't always the villains that society likes to make us out to be. We are also vulnerable, we are also lost, and we are also pigeonholed into roles and routines predetermined by years of societal repression. That is all. Thank you.
I understand that.
Yeah, because Turning Red does great things for a young female audience to better understand their body and how it changes and what's happening and mood swings and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of one where boys have that. Like, really, that sort of exploration of going, it's going to get a bit weird now.
Yeah. There's still parts of the world where women have an outside shelter where they have to stay when they're on their period. They have to leave the main house and they have to go sit in like a little shed while they're menstruating.
That's mad.
Not allowed in the house when you're on your period.
It's like a bleeding barn.
Yeah, like a bleeding barn.
That's fucked up.
I bet sadly, them people don't have access to TV or cinema either, so they've not seen Turning Red.
Yeah.
Most likely.
But do you think there should be a safe space for like boys to understand that? Because suddenly, my experience of being a bloke is you were a child enjoying toys, and the next thing you're like a sexual being. Like that thing between your legs does things now, and it's like you look at girls differently. Like,
girls have that as well, though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but I don't see that sort of being represented in like mainstream media. Maybe Big Mouth. Is it Big Mouth?
Exceptional.
Yeah, that's kind of the only thing that I've seen, but that's more of a crude adult animation.
Very
angle.
crude, yeah.
Yeah,
but spot on.
Yeah.
If you were to do Turning Red almost realistically, it would be Big Mouth.
Yeah, so I kind of want a friendlier version of that for lads that like does not necessarily exploring solely breakfast boners. That can be in it.
Yeah. One of my favourite animations, but it was a dual job by Pete Docter and Rob Peterson. They did Up.
Oh.
Yeah, and I thought Up was brilliant. It did have some serious undertones like loss and, you know, not being a father himself, but maybe like partially adopting like this young scout lad, and it brought a tear to my eye. I really like that film. So I would have Pete Docter and Rob Peterson direct, and I'd have Will Poulter star. I think he can do a youthful young voice. You know, he's played characters where he's the young buck, and he can be quite an innocent character. I think Will Poulter would do a really good voice work for an animation.
Would you have Poulter as a Brit as he is, or would you have him doing an American
Will Poulter
accent? Yeah.
If I was to just keep toe in toe with Turning Red, I would have it American, which he can do.
Yeah,
can do it.
Yeah.
Revenant, We Are the Millers. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have Will Poulter, directed by Pete Docter and Rob Peterson. I call it The White Balloon.
Okay.
Lately, little Timmy's been going through some changes, and he doesn't know which way to turn. Growing up is hard. No, not like that. Well, actually, kind of like that.
Mum, why don't I want to play with my toys anymore?
It's quite simple, Timmy. Your body's changing. Things that interested you before might not interest you as much anymore.
And why does my armpit smell funny?
That's all part of the change, honey.
And the big white balloon floating in my room?
What? He's got a new friend. White Balloon. Coming soon.